Welcome to Faith in the Game, the podcast where faith meets the field and the heart behind the hustle takes center stage. I'm your host, Judy Ingram, and each week I will sit down with current and former college athletes who are living out their faith while competing at the highest levels. We'll talk about their journeys on and off the field, their testimonies, trials, and how Christ shapes who they are as student athletes. Let's get into today's conversation and see how God is moving through faith and the game. Now, in this very first episode of Faith in the Game, I'm joined by Akintola Akinniyi, known to many as AK, a current member of the Quinnipiac men's basketball team. Now, as he heads into his second year of the Bobcats, AK is going to share a powerful testimony about how his journey at Quinnipiac was anything but random. It wasn't just a transfer or a chance opportunity, it was God's plan in motion. Get ready to hear how faith guided AK's path both on and off the court.
So just simple, how did you get into basketball?
How did I get into basketball? Whenever I was in the third grade, I remember the year before for Christmas, my sister had asked for a basketball hoop and she didn't get it and she was really mad about it. So then the next year I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask too. And hopefully if like both of us want a hoop, then our parents will actually get us like a basketball hoop for Christmas. So yeah, it was either that or the PSP. You remember the little like portable PlayStation?
Yes.
Yeah. I asked for a basketball hoop and a PSP. And I'm not going to lie, like the basketball hoop was kind of for my sister, but I really wanted the PSP. Anyways, so, Christmas Day comes. There's a big old box by the tree. It's a basketball hoop. I freak out. I'm a little disappointed it's not the PSP, but at the same time, I'm just happy I got a big gift. So, we built that, put that out on the driveway. And I just fell in love. Like I started playing. I was already naturally tall, so people always told me I should get into basketball. At that time, I wasn't really playing any sports. So I just started playing every day. I kind of had a knack for it. And I don't know, from then on, I just kind of fell in love with the game.
And when did you know, like, oh, I can play like at a different level? I could do Division One.
I think it had always been my goal. Like within months of me starting to play basketball, I knew I wanted to like tap it out, like play at the highest levels possible. But I think the first time, like I knew for certain, like I'm going D1. Like I'd always had a goal of being D1, but whenever I knew I was going D1, like whenever I wasn't willing to settle anymore, probably came the summer leading into my junior year. I went to a camp. It's called the Prep Hoops Texas Top 250 camp I went to. And I think it was a 3-game camp. And damn likely cool. It was a 3-game camp and I went crazy. Like I think I averaged 27 and 13. And like a lot of coaches, a lot of people were coming up to me at the camp. And I think that day I realized, like, obviously I always knew I wanted to be a Division I player. Obviously it was my goal, but that day I knew like, okay, like I have the ability, I'm going to be able to pull this off. Like I'm better enough than everybody else to be able to actually play at that level. And then glory to God, obviously, come my senior year, offers started coming in. I was able to see it through.
All right. Love, you already kind of gave the segue. What was your faith like as a young child, or like when did you get into that?
Yeah, so my parents I've always been very big into faith. They every Sunday would go to a church. The church I grew up in was exclusively Nigerian immigrant, just like my parents. Pentecostal upbringing. It was very interesting. And then whenever I was around 12, my dad moved to Nigeria for like 5 years. He had a business out there. So it was just me, my brother, my middle sister at the time. But mostly like during that 5-year span, it's pretty much just me, my brother at Yale, that's a year older than me, and my mom. And our dad always made sure that we went to church every Sunday. At that time, we weren't really going to church like every Sunday anymore because our mom, she worked the night shift. She worked almost every day. Obviously, my dad was in Nigeria, so she was working 2 full-time jobs to be able to, provide for her kids. So she wasn't able to take us to church Sunday mornings anymore. And I think at that point in time, like, it was more like a point of exploration for me because obviously I'd always grown up in a Pentecostal church, always went to the church my dad took me to, but now it's kind of like, okay, what do I like? What do I really like align with? And I stumbled upon Bishop T.D. Jakes. I was just watching him on TV and I was watching The Potter's House, and I loved it. I thought it was perfect. I loved everything he was about. I loved how it was focused on the word. And then I realized, like, a few months after watching, I was like, "Yo, TD Jakes is in Dallas. Like, I can go." So then me and my sister, whenever she would come into town, she'd take me down. We'd watch it together. And then eventually, my junior, like in between my junior and senior year, my dad moved back to America, and I actually put him on. He started taking me there. We started doing it together. My I think starting my sophomore year, I was a member of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And my senior year, I was appointed as the president of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So, yeah, I think it was very much like once I really, like the age of like consciousness, like around 12, 13, it was very much like a slow burn of exploration and learning and getting into the word for myself more so than just, following along with my parents.
Yeah, so lovely. The Fellowship of Christian Athletes, you did that in high school. What was that like? First, just being a member, and then when you became president?
It was awesome because, especially at that time, like I said, I wasn't even going to churches in person, so I didn't have like a weekly, like regimented thing of, making sure I'm spending time with God, and I really had no fellowship at all because everything I did was by myself. So, at a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I found out the Fellowship of Christian Athletes was on campus. I hopped at the opportunity immediately. I went to every meeting, and the community honestly wasn't even too big. Like 4 or 5 people would go to every meeting, but I loved it. It was led by a young lady named Hayden Colson who plays soccer at Auburn now, and she did a great job with it. And yeah, I don't know, like just the community piece was huge for me, and it was really huge for me in growing in faith and having that like regimented thing of just having that time for God and figuring
Yeah.
out the people around me go to my school that also have similar interests. Also, being athletes as well was awesome. And then my senior year, the staff advisor for FCA had appointed me president. He asked me, he was like, "Do you want to be president?" I think it'd be perfect. And it kind of caught me off guard. I had led like a few lessons my junior year, but I just never expected for him to ask me to be like the guy. So that was really cool. And but I believe it was a calling, from like obviously he appointed me the role, but I believe it was a calling from the Most High. So I felt implored to pick up the call. I took it head on. I had a VP, and it was awesome. It was awesome growing that community. It was awesome, getting my team and some more people to come and being able to lead fellowship for the first time. It wasn't really like I led it, but I was more like a proctor because FCA would already give us like slideshows and lesson plans and stuff like that. I was just to like present it. But nonetheless, like it was great in growing in faith and just being able to have those conversations and have those questions within the community.
So, how would you say you balance not just being a student athlete, which is a lot in itself, but also like having your life being lived as a true man of God?
Um, hmm, that's a good question. uh, I think, hmm, that's a really good question. I think whenever it comes to being a man of God, I don't, I don't really think there's much balance because I put everything into it. Like, there's certain things, earthly things, where like, oh, you got to you do it, but it's in moderation. You can't be too much. You can't idolize it. Whenever God comes to my faith, like I'm at this point, I'm all into it. And then everything else that I do, I just try and find a way to do it for him. Like I try and find a way to put everything underneath that umbrella. I think there's some point in high school where like even playing basketball. Initially, whenever I'm playing basketball, like I ain't gonna lie, like it was cool. I was told, they recognize you. People come to the games. Like the girls liked you more. Like so that was the what enticed me. But I think eventually, like probably around my junior years, whenever I realized that if I'm gonna play basketball, I have to play for a greater purpose. That everything I do should glorify God. And that's whenever the mindset kind of shifted. That basketball too, being a student athlete, I'm also doing for the glory of God. And yeah, like I think even early on, there was a point in time, and I know I'm supposed to act like I don't know you, but knowing you, like you probably dealt with the same thing. We're coming up, like there was a term Jesus freak, and nobody wanted to be that person that like would like you wanted to be into God, but not too into God, because then people would think like, oh, like it's OD now, that stuff. And I don't know when exactly it clicked, but it got to a point for me, like even on my social media, I was like, yo, because I literally thought like, oh, I've been posting religious content a lot. I don't want to post too much religious content. And I was like, why not? Like, like that's who I am. Like that's the most important part of me. Like that, if I want anybody to see my page and see me and identify me as one thing, I want it to be a man of God before it be a basketball player or anything else. So I think the balance really just came in, like being a student athlete and playing my sport, making sure that I don't idolize my sport, making sure I understand that it's something I do, not who I am, making sure that, I give my all to the sport, but the reason I'm giving my all isn't for my own glory, but for his. So I think that's where the balance comes in just in knowing that.
Lovely. Well, I think you have first a beautiful story of how you got to Quinnipiac because you're a transfer and you went to West Point. So can you kind of dive into just like what was it like being at West Point, where you're like not only like an athlete, but you're also like a soldier also. So I'm sure that was like a whole bunch and a bunch of stories for being at West Point.
Yeah. It's funny. Like balancing being a student and an athlete is one thing. Balancing being a student and an athlete and a soldier is a whole nother thing. So yeah, West Point. I mean, sometimes now I look back at it and it doesn't even feel real. Like some of the stuff I went through, crazy experiences, like stuff I'd never done before. I'd never been an outdoor person. I'd never camped outside, never slept outside before. West Point, you're spending weeks at a time outside, no showers. You're just using baby wipes every night, and like it's just crazy stuff. Like I think about now, I'm like, there's no way I actually did that. And yeah, the training was rigorous, as obviously as it needs to be. It's the United States Army, and yeah, I did a lot of crazy things. I scaled mountains. I free soloed cliffs whenever I was doing land nav. I free soloed. There was a 400-meter, like it's basically like a plateau. It's 400 meters in elevation. In land nav, what you have to do, you're like in the woods. They give you a map. They give you a compass. They're like, find at least 3 points in 3 hours, and then come back here. Pass fail. Either you do it or you don't. And then so I've found 2 points. I know I'm running out of time. I didn't have a watch, but I knew I was running out of time. And so I come up to this point. I was like, okay, my point is on top of this mountain. It's a less steep side, but it probably take me too long to walk all the way around. So then I was like, God got me. I just started climbing. I started free soloing in the mountains. It's kind of crazy looking back at it, like, because I don't know, being in that type of environment, you throw logic out the window. Like you just go for things. Like I don't know, just everything's like a YOLO moment. So yeah, I start climbing up the mountain. I think I'm about like 3/4 of the way up, and they warned us before that in the wood there's black bears. So I start hearing like bears while I'm climbing. At first I stopped and I was like, am I tripping? And I thought I was like, just hearing stuff. I keep climbing. I hear it again. I'm like, okay, that's definitely a bear. I was like, okay, like if I encounter this bear, I'm cooked. So I can either go down to the bottom or go up top and just hope I don't encounter this bear. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep climbing. I get to the top and then I hear somebody yelling out my name. They're yelling out, obviously they only call you by your last name. So it's Akinniyi, Akinniyi. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. It's like, you're out of time, come back down. So then I have to like slide down the thing and walk back with these dudes who had to send out to find me because I ran out of time while climbing that mountain. And yeah, just crazy moments like that. Obviously going, one of the crazy things that people always hear about is going through the gas chamber. Everybody reacts to it differently, but me, like, I, to this day, worst pain I've ever experienced. Like, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And the first time I went through, like, it quite literally feels like you're on fire. Like it literally feels like you're burning alive. You walk out, and the gas, it's called CS gas, it latches on the moisture. So it latches onto the moisture in your eyes. Obviously, it's like 90-something degrees outside. I'm sweating, so my whole body's just burning. Your eyes are burning, so like I couldn't even open my eyes because they were burning so bad. I can't breathe, and that lasts for like 7 minutes. So I'm just like, I literally ran into the woods. And they, it was funny. They told us to flap our arms to like help blood flow, that it helps it go faster. So whenever I left the chamber, whenever they finally let me out after I had done like the Army Creed and all that, I run out, eyes closed, flapping my arms. I run into another cadet. I was just a mess. Then I run like all the way towards the woods, and I'm just like trying to get my breath back. And I'm nearly thinking, oh, they said it lasts 5 to 10 minutes. Like there's no way I can take 10 minutes of this. And it was insane. And then after I finally recovered, after like 10, 15 minutes, I went in and did it again. So and that's just how Army was. Like it was just constantly testing our limits. And you know, it was an experience like no other. Obviously, in the moment in time, I was struggling. It was hard. It wasn't um, the most fun I've had in my life, but looking back at it, I'm happy I went through it and was able to have those experiences.
Oof, that is a lot going on. So, pain and stuff. Why did you decide to go to West Point following your high school career?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I had three offers from West Point, University of Tennessee Martin, and Nicholls State. Nicholls State came really late, so they were never really thoroughly considered for me to go. So it was really just between University of Tennessee Martin and West Point. I wanted to go to University of Tennessee Martin. I always knew I wanted to go to University of Tennessee at Martin. I was like 99.9% sure I was going to go to University of Tennessee at Martin. But then there were these two people in my life called my mom and my dad who really wanted me to go to West Point. And uh, I'm Nigerian, as I said before. My parents they migrated here in 1995. Strong accents, all that. And if you know anything about Nigerian parents, whenever it comes to high academics, whenever it comes to schooling, like there's nothing more important. So for them, the option seemed obvious that they were pushing me towards West Point, pushing me towards West Point. There's even a point in time where I told them I wanted to commit to University of Tennessee at Martin, that I was going to commit, and they let me hear it. They let me hear it, and they let me know where they wanted me to go. To the point that I feel like with sort of familial pressure, my mom and dad, cousins, uncles, everybody feels like it's just pushing me towards West Point. So I took the leap of faith. I chose to trust my parents, and I went to West Point. Yeah, and before long, I kind of figured out that yeah, I was right in my initial estimation that this is not the place for me. But yeah, they definitely had a big influence in a they definitely had a big influence in my going there.
So, why didn't West Point work out for you? What was it?
I think honestly there's a plethora of reasons, but I think the best way to sum it up is that my I knew my purpose to be to spread the gospel. I knew my purpose was to reach the most people I could, to let them know the good news of heaven. And I didn't think West Point was the best place for me to do that. I knew that basketball has always been my vessel to reach more people. And I think going to West Point, you're not. I thought I was gonna be a basketball player that also had to do army training. Like, no, if you go to West Point, you're a soldier first and foremost, and then you get to do some of the other stuff sometimes. Like, so whenever in my going there, the focus wasn't basketball. The focus really couldn't be anything but being a soldier. And like I said, it was unlike anything I'd ever done. So for me, especially, like the experience was hard. The experience was rigorous, and I was constantly having to devote even more time than others towards things. I had to learn how to swim. I've never swam before. I had to take a combat swim class. We diving off boards in full gear, swimming with rifles and flicks on. You got like 30 pounds of restriction. Swimming underwater with hoops. I've never swam before, so and I was struggling in class so bad that later got to a point I had to do individual lessons every day, like with the instructor, just me and him. So I'm swimming 7 days a week, doing army training, drilling, all that stuff 7 days a week, still trying to be a basketball player. And, it's just kind of like, it was like something's got to give. And the purpose that I knew I had, the purpose that I'd been chasing in, and the reasoning I even wanted to be a Division I basketball player in the first place, I didn't feel I was serving. And I also knew that the army, like, it's not something to be played with. Like, that's something you have to be committed to, because especially West Point, it's not that I just enlisted. I was at West Point, so you're training to be a military officer, meaning whenever you graduate, you're going to have at least 30 people in a platoon looking up to you, that you're in charge of their lives. So if that's not something you're totally committed to, like if you just want to play basketball, it's not something you should be doing. So I made the move, and I chose to shift my focus to what I really was focused on instead of what my parents were focused on. And uh, I think it was the best move for me. I'm thankful for my time at West Point. I love West Point, love the United States Military Academy, but for me, it was definitely the best decision.
Yeah, through those lows and highs of being at West Point, how did that strengthen your faith being there for the year you were there?
It strengthened my faith immensely, because I feel I feel that whenever you don't get in line with God, He has a way of putting you in line. And I've been reading the Bible this summer. I just finished what did I just finish? I just finished Jeremiah. And Jeremiah is literally all about how uh the people of the land, especially the people of Israel and Judah specifically, they made a covenant with God and they chose to break that covenant. And then God had to, he sends King Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon. He takes over the land. They have to serve him for 70 years. And even then, whenever he's telling this prophet Jeremiah, he tells him, like, I will restore these people once they turn their face back to me. But they can't go unpunished. They can't go wholly unpunished for all the sins they've committed. I think in a lot of ways, like West Point, not just for the Army, but just in life, like it trained me up. In West Point too, like the time I spent there between 7-week boot camp or 7-week basic training and 6 months for the semester, it was right around like 7 total months that I spent there. And once again, like as I've gotten into the word, I'm starting to see things and understand things better. And I see like obviously 7 is like in the Bible is the number of completion. I see a lot of things that take 7 days. Obviously, I just said that whenever they were ruled by Babylon, it took 70 years before they could return unto their land. So I think for me, like those 7 months was really just a time for the Lord to train me up and to bring me back to Him, to get me back in line and to, to bring me to my knees a bit. Because let it be known, like whenever I was at Army, it was definitely the worst time in my life. Mentally, like worst time in my life. It got to a point where like I was having ideations. I felt trapped. Like I've never experienced anything like that. In Texas, I was always a happy-go-lucky guy. Even here, I've always been more of a happy-go-lucky guy. So Army, like it took my smile and it took me to a point where I really had no choice but to turn to God. In the ways before that I was sinning, the ways before that I turned away from God, like whenever I was at West Point, I literally told him, I said, Lord, like if you get me out of this situation, like I'm going to commit fully. Like there's no more picking and choosing. There's no more doing that but not doing this. Like Lord, I will commit fully to you so long as you help me out of the situation. Because I knew like Army's not a high major. I never even logged a minute at Army. So for me to go to another Division I school, it would take a miracle. Like most people, there are other kids who went to Army, played at Army that were in my same class, and they transferred. They weren't able to go to another Division I school. So I knew that it was going to be a very tall task. I knew it was going to take a miracle, and I can't do miracles, but God can. So I turned to Him and I said, Lord, like it's going to take a miracle. If it be Your will, Lord, just let it be done. And I promise, like I'll serve You in everything I do. I'll let it be known. Like I'll spread the good news. I'll do it for Your glory. And He delivered me, and it just confirmed what I always knew without a doubt that God has His hand over my life and over the lives of us all.
Yeah, can you expound upon how you were able to even get to Quinnipiac?
Yeah, so initially I knew I didn't want to stay at Army like within like a month after basic training or boot camp. I knew I was out of there. So I I had reached out to some Division I schools that recruited me from high school, but apparently there was a thing with enrolling that you can't enroll more than 3 weeks after the academic year started. So I was a little too late for that. But with JUCO, that rule wasn't really enacted, and there were some JUCOs saying that so long as I get an honorable discharge from the Army, I'll be able to play that season because the one excuse for a midseason transfer is that you were in the military. So I figured, okay, that's the best option for me. Initially, I was going to go JUCO. I went home for the Labor Day. That's in September, like the early 3-day weekend. Yeah, went home for Labor Day. Told my parents. Honestly, I had no plan. Whenever I went home for Labor Day, in my head, I was leaving. I was going to go back on Monday to a JUCO. Like I wasn't going to go back to West Point ever again. And then I go home. I tell them my plans. And once again, Nigerian parents, so they're like, man, you're going to leave West Point for a 2-year institution for a JUCO? Like, no way. So, they let me hear it. And then, and only the way they can do, they changed my mind just enough. I was like, okay, but I can't stay there. And if I want to transfer to a Division I school, it's going to have to be a semester. Like I'm not going to be able to do it now. So that'd be known like a semester, I'll make a move, but I'll try my best to go to a Division I school. So I go back to West Point. I actually reported late because I didn't, like I said, I didn't plan to come back. So I ended up like coming back late. And I go back to West Point, and then I start reaching out to schools, sending emails. I at least sent 100, at least sent 100. I don't want to oversell it, but I definitely sent 100. Like, I know I emailed every mid-major in Texas, if not every school in Texas. I emailed I emailed every Ivy League. I know that I emailed so many schools in the Northeast. Once I realized that it'd probably be good for me to stay within the region, I was emailing schools in California. I was emailing schools out all over the country. If I turned on the TV or turned on my phone, yeah, my phone, because I didn't have a TV at West Point. But if I turned on my phone and I saw any news about any school that I haven't messaged, I was like, okay, let me message them. Like, I was like, okay, let's see, something's got to stick. And a few schools reached back, some with okay news, some with semi-good news, some with bad news. And, at this point, like, it's like November, and I also have to look into out processing from the Army, because it's not like other schools where you can just kind of dip or like not enroll for the next semester. Like, with Army, you're actually leaving the military, so you're out processing. You have to get like a discharge and all that stuff. Like, it's a whole like 2 month process essentially. So I'm 2 months out from when I hope to be at another school, and I'm like, okay, God, I'm trusting you. Like, I ain't got nothing yet, but I'm believing you're gonna bring something so long as I stay fast, steadfast on you. So I started the out processing process with no offers, no certainty, no knowing of what's gonna happen. But I just took a huge leap of faith that I really like, totally blind faith, totally blind. Like, objectively, that's like a dumb thing to do, but glory to God, So yeah, I start out processing, and then eventually I finally start hearing from a school by the name of Abilene Christian. They're really into me. They're talking about getting me out for a visit, all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking, man, like, I just had a coming to God moment, like a born again moment, Christian institution, like, this is perfect. So, and it's back in Texas. It's about 3 hours from where I live in Texas. So I'm thinking Abilene Christian, like, yeah, that's the way to go. Um, and then I was talking to the assistant coach, and eventually they kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to get you on the phone with the head coach, get you on the phone with the head coach." And just kept getting pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. And it got to a point where, like, I'd message the assistant coach asking about it, and I didn't get a response for like 2 or 3 days. Keep in mind, they were in season, so kind of makes sense. But you know me, like, I'm leaving my school. Like, if I don't have another school next semester, I'm just a college dropout. Like I need like I'm freaking out. I'm stammering, and then at this point, I'm like super sad. I'm in sorrow. I'm thinking like, oh, like, Abilene Christian, like, they're done with me, because basketball at this level, like, it's a business. So I just figured like, oh, they dropped me, found another guy, whatever. So I'm super sad, and I'm literally sitting in my room, just kind of like wallowing, not knowing what I'm gonna do, because it's so close to the semester. And I hear one of my roommates who played basketball who plays basketball at West Point, by the name of Tate Lachkowski. He was talking to his little brother. I think his little brother's name Luke. Yeah, his little brother's name Luke Lachkowski, and he was a junior in high school at the time. He was talking to him about different schools in the Northeast and their play styles, because at this point in time, his little brother was getting recruited by a lot of different schools. And he starts talking about Quinnipiac, their play style, how they're real fast, real athletic, all this stuff. I'm like, yo, like, that sounds perfect for like the players that I am. So then that night, like right after I hear him on the phone, like overhear his conversation, I emailed Quinnipiac. Like, it was 9 p.m. I'll never forget. It was 9 p.m. at night. And then 9 a.m. the next morning, I got a response from one of the assistant coaches. I got on the phone with them. And then at this point, obviously, I already wasn't playing with the Army basketball team. Like, I wasn't a member, because I knew, like, whenever I wanted to leave for JUCO, like, cut all ties. And then uh, but Quinnipiac was going to play Army. So I emailed them, and then I think a week after I emailed them, Quinnipiac came to play Army. So they come to play Army. They beat Army, which is funny. I go to the game, full get up, like full camo suit, all that stuff, meet the coaches. And then it was a week before Thanksgiving break. So they were like, oh, we need to have you out for a visit, Thanksgiving break. So a week after I emailed them, I'm able to meet the coaches. A week after that, I go out for a visit. And then probably a week after that, after I got like financial aid, scholarships, and all that stuff, I committed. So it happened so fast. And it's funny too, because eventually Abilene Christian did come through, but it was Quinnipiac and the way it all happened, even compared to my high school recruitment, I just knew in the way like my visit went, like I knew it was the way for me, and I knew I was being led. And I had a mentor at the time at West Point that I met with once a week by the name of Omar Simpson. He was really like more of like an academic mentor, but he was just awesome. Another African American guy. He went to UNC, big in his face. So like, yeah, academics was the reason we had to meet, but I talked to him about any and everything. And I was telling him about that process and how, my transfer process. Whenever I talked to him about Quinnipiac, he said the same thing. He's like, it seems obvious, where God's leading you to go. Like you were pushing so hard for another school and you thought this was really where you were meant to be. The moment you messaged this other school that you weren't even supposed to hear about, like from you eavesdropping on a conversation you weren't even in, like all these great stuff starts happening. So I knew I was being led. And, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe that God is very intentional and that he does everything for a reason. So whenever I heard that conversation, whenever um, I felt the need to message them, and whenever I got quick responses, quick visit, everything, I knew that that was the place for me to go.
So what was the transition like going from, let's say, just Army basketball or West Point and going to actual Division One at Quinnipiac?
Yeah, it was insane. And I think more so than even the basketball and all that stuff, I think just like social aspect. Because I'm 18 years old. I grew up in Texas, I went from Texas to the Army, and now I'm living in Connecticut, going to Quinnipiac, and it was just like, whoa, this is really different. I remember messaging one of my friends from a West Point a week after I had transferred, and like my first week at Quinnipiac, and I told him, it was like, this is so crazy. Like I get to dress myself. Like I wake up in the morning, I pick my own outfit because at West Point, we were always in uniform. Like little things like that, like I just found so crazy. And obviously, just being in a whole new region, it was such a culture shock. The basketball was definitely a level up. Like I said, funny enough, like Quinnipiac had nearly beat Army that season. So even whenever I felt like, I was able to do my thing a bit at Army, Quinnipiac, it took it to another level, and I too had to take my game to another level. But I believe water always matches this level. So I was very happy about that and an opportunity to play basketball, at a high level and compete at a higher level, even within the same division. And yeah, it was so quick. It was such a shock, but there were people around who really made it great for me. Our AT, our athletic trainer, Sarah McDonald Civitello, she was great. She served like a mother role whenever I transferred, whenever I first came there. It was awesome. And yeah, my first day at Quinnipiac, my first practice was literally my 19th birthday, which once again, it's like, don't believe in coincidences. Like brand new beginning. Like I'm just, giving the glory to God. And yeah, and funny enough, the out processing process I earlier was talking about still wasn't finished. So there was actually a week overlap where I was an active duty soldier in the Army and a Quinnipiac basketball player, which is kind of wild. Yeah, I got the message of my discharge, the notification of my discharge, like January 24th, a week after I had already been with Quinnipiac. So it was pretty crazy. But yeah, everything just happened so fast. My brother goes to Yale, so being close to him and having him around again was so good because, he's a year older than me. So we have always been together. Growing up, we always went to the same school. So I thought it was funny. I always tell him, like, even whenever you finally thought you got rid of me, like I ended up right back. Like, like we just can't get away from each other. So yeah, but everything just felt like the stars were aligning. Obviously, it was a culture shock. Obviously, it was a new challenge, but it was a challenge I was ready for, and a challenge that I was I felt more. It was a challenge I welcomed. The challenge I welcomed.
Nice. So not only are you on the men's basketball team, but you're also like a leader for Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship. So how did you get into that?
Yeah. So whenever I transferred to Quinnipiac, I was looking for like a religious group or something, some kind of religious ministry on campus, Christian ministry on campus, of course. And I had trouble finding it. At West Point, they had churches on base, so I'd go to a church every Sunday. I was also in the gospel choir at West Point, so I was able to scratch that itch that way. And at Quinnipiac, I wanted to be able to do the same thing. And I reached out because Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship wasn't an existing student org. It was on like the website and everything. I sent them an email telling them I want to get involved. Never heard back. And then I was talking to my teammate Savion at the time, former teammate now. Oh, that's bad. He's really gone. That's crazy. But yeah. Anyways, I was talking to him. He had just we used to go to church together, so we were on our way back from church, and I was telling him, I was like, man, like I want to get a Christian Fellowship back up and running. He had told me before, like he used to go to meetings and stuff, but whenever I came in, I was asking him about it. He was telling me, he's like, they basically just weren't happening. I was like, yo, I want to get it back up and running. I want to figure that out. It's like, yeah, dude, like we should definitely do that, all this stuff. So at that point, like the idea was spurred after I went to church with him. And there so happened, but once again, I don't believe in coincidences. There was a new director of religious life at Quinnipiac by the name of Jermaine Pearson, African-American guy. And he used to do theater, which was awesome because in high school, I also did theater. So whenever I scheduled a meeting with him, I was talking with him, we were chopping it up. And he was asking about my upbringing, and I got to tell him about that. And then we got to talk about theater and all this stuff. It was just such a great conversation. It was like such a friendly conversation. But the conversation was founded on the fact that, hey, I was looking for this community. I didn't find this community. I think there's enough of a demand. Let's make this community. Like I want to be able to take over Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship and bring it back to campus. And he told me, he was like, hey, it's already registered through the school. It's already a student org, but nobody's running it. So long as, you have the wherewithal to do it, like I'm just here to support you and just let me know we have space for you. We have whatever. So yeah, from then on, this is towards the end of my freshman year at Quinnipiac, a few weeks after school at this point. But yeah, I get into the planning of Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship. So I booked the room, started Instagram, all that stuff, trying to get the word out. And I'm also planning lessons because it was the first time, unlike FCA, where they gave me presentations and I was just doing it. I was planning my own lessons, like my own sermons. I was gonna say, for lack of a better word, but that's really what it is. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Like I'm not a preacher, but like you really preaching. Like that's what you're doing. Yeah. So I was planning my own sermons, all that stuff, trying to get the word out. And it's nerve wracking. Obviously, I've only spent a semester at the school. I want people to come. I'm trying to be a representative of the Most High. Like I don't want to fall short. And it was super stressful. We get to the new school year, second week of school. And first meeting, we packed house, like literally a full room. And I couldn't believe it because especially at that time, like I had no e-board, I had no nothing. It was just me. So it was just me like promoting it on Instagram, promoting it on my Instagram. A lot of people who showed up were my friends, but even other people who I'd never met, freshmen, all this stuff, started showing up. And then like, it was just amazing to see because I think I was so afraid because I thought I had to do it. I thought it was by my power that I'm going to bring people to QCF, all this stuff, but it was never by my power. It's always by God because I only spent a semester at Quinnipiac. I had never played in the game. Like I did not have the pull to fill that room up week one, but God did, and God used me as a vessel to be able to do that. So it was amazing. And then later on during that year, I learned that Jermaine had actually resigned from his role as head of religious life. And there was another like Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship gathering that had started taking place on the main campus. Now, luckily, mine was on York Hill campus. And once again, don't believe in coincidences. It was so crazy how it happened because they came in and got recognized by the new head of, or the acting head of religious life, like in the gap where, so Jermaine comes, I get recognized, I'm the head of Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship, I start doing my thing. Jermaine leaves, I'm doing my thing, I have no idea Jermaine left. They come in, or InterVarsity comes in, gets recognized by the acting head of religious life, starts doing their thing on main campus. And I ran into them at I think it was like the club fair that I ran into them, and I see Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship. And I'm like, yo, like, what are y'all doing? Because I was thinking like, yo, I'm the guy. Like, what's this about? They're like, oh yeah, it's a Christian fellowship for everybody on campus. I was like, oh, I'm doing the Christian fellowship. It was like, oh really? He was like, yeah, but I'm gonna do it up on York though. Where you guys meet? Like, oh, we're meeting on Maine. Funny enough, whenever I figured that out, like I said, I was already scared. I'm already thinking like, oh, people aren't gonna come anyway. So I'm like, like if you're already doing it, I might not do it then. But glory to God. Now she's a Protestant chaplain at Quinnipiac. She, Kim Espinal, she told me, she was like, oh no, you might know different people. Like it's on a different campus. Like you should still do it. I was like, okay, I guess, yeah, y'all do what y'all doing on main campus. I'll do what I'm doing on York Hill campus. So we I continued, I'm doing my thing. They're doing their thing. Eventually, the acting head of religious life or the acting like club head or whoever figures out about my thing and realize it's not associated with InterVarsity. So they try and shut it down. And they tried to shut it down on a Wednesday, which made me mad. It's like, yo, I have a meeting today. So like if you try and shut it down today, people are gonna show up and then they're not gonna like I'm not gonna be able to do it. So I'm calling people, I'm stammering, I'm like, yo, I tell them the situation of things. They're like, yeah, the timeline makes sense. Because they canceled all my reservations. Like in one foul swoop, I got an email, like we meet every Wednesday at 8, at like 5 o'clock, I got an email, like, oh, your reservations are canceled. You're not the recognized Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship. So I'm like, yo, what? So then I called a dude, I'm like, yo, we have a meeting tonight. Like, I can talk to the people on main campus, whatever I need to do. But like, it's got to keep going. We already have a community. We're already like pushing numbers like 20 strong a week. Like you can't be stopped. You know what I mean? So he's like, oh yeah, you're already serving the campus, all that stuff. I don't want to stop it. We'll reinstate your reservations, but you have to talk to the acting head of religious life and the people who are running Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship on Maine who are recognized to figure out how you're going to go forward because we can't have two clubs doing the same thing. So I talked to the head of religious life. He said that we can either merge or I can do my own thing with a different constitution and just make like a new religious club. I talked to the people on main campus and we decided to merge and it was great. So now we have for this past year was the first time ever we had a Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship on main campus and the York Hill campus to be able to serve the whole school. And I was able to collaborate with the Protestant chaplain, Miss Kim Espinal. We put on events like different themes. Miss Kim came in and like led a few of the meetings, whatever. I had basketball themes of the sort. So it was just, like the way it came to be. Once again, like I don't know, I just don't believe in coincidences. Like all the stars just aligned and helped me grow in my faith and helped so many grow in their faith. And I'm forever thankful for what Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship has done, is doing, and will continue to do in my time remaining here.
So I see one of the things you're doing is you're reading the entire Bible. What like prompted you to decide to do that this summer?
Funny enough, like so I've read certain books and certain stories. Obviously with QCF, whenever I'm teaching certain things, I do a lot of research. So I've always been into the word. But and honestly, like I felt confident in my knowing of the word. I feel like you read the Bible a lot, you read daily, all this stuff, even though it's kind of scattered, not really planned. And then I started going on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and glory to God, now my Explorer page has like a lot of Christian content. And I'd see like Christian comedy on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and it'd be like, like biblical jokes about stories and stuff. I'd be like, dang, I don't get it. Like I have no idea what they're talking about. Then it made me realize, man, I have so much more to learn. So I knew, like, I think for my 20th birthday, like my resolution was really like, I want to read the Bible more. I want to read the Bible more. Obviously, like my 20th birthday, I was born January 17th. So like we're mid-season, QCF still a thing, school still a thing. Like the gospel choir eventually started popping off, which I became the president of. So there's so many things like I was just doing, and I was never really able to take the deep dive into the word that I wanted to. But I always knew like within me, like, even though the task seemed daunting, like eventually I do want to read this thing like cover to cover. I want to know everything there is to know that this book possesses. But then whenever summer came, first few weeks of summer, I always do a break off of social media other than posting the verse of the day. Like I don't use social media. I post the verse of the day, then I don't use it. And I was trying to think of what to do, how to fill my time. And I was like, you should start reading more. But the only issue is that I hated reading. Like actually, like the act of reading, like I hate it. I don't do it. And my dad, I went home and I realized that my dad got really into audiobooks. I was like, oh, you should see if there's an audiobook of the Bible. And I found an audiobook of the Bible. And I think my flight back, I had my 2 weeks break in Texas after the school year, and my flight back for summer one to train with the team is whenever I decided to start reading, because I knew like I was gonna be here, playing basketball, and then the rest of my day would be empty, like no family, nobody's here. So I started reading on the plane, Genesis, listening to it with the audiobook. I listened to it with the audiobook and then also have the words on the screen, just kind of like follow along, keep me paced, keep me on track, keep me focused. And yeah, I finished Genesis in one sitting in that plane ride, 4 hour plane ride to Connecticut. And it was awesome. And I read Exodus again, story of Moses, and it was awesome. And I just felt, no, I felt like a gentle whisper. Like I felt a burden in my spirit. Like you need to read the Bible. Like you need to read the whole thing. So I started doing it, and I knew a book of. At first, it said the audiobook was 79 hours. So I was like, okay, 79 hours, that's not too long. Like if I do an hour a day, I'll finish it in 79 days. I can finish the Bible this summer. And then whenever I come back for QCF next year, like the lessons are going to be that much better because I know that much more and I'm that much more enlightened to the word and that much more understanding of God. So I told myself I was going to do an hour a day. But once I finished Genesis in one sitting and I was looking forward, like kind of peeking ahead, seeing that like Genesis is one of the longer books of the Bible, like, yo, the 66 books, 79 hours, give or take, like I can do a book a day. So then I decided, okay, I'm gonna do one book every day for 66 days and finish the Bible. And I'm gonna post about it on Instagram, have people take the journey with me and hopefully encourage them to also read the Bible. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, and it's crazy. Like I really can't attribute it to anything other than God, because I don't even like reading. Like I to be able to sit down and just focus on something like that for hours that isn't basketball or training has always been so foreign to me. But I think it's just been something put in my spirit to lead me to read the whole thing and be able to share what I've learned and what I'm doing through posting on my story and also posting the reels summarizing each book on a Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship.
Love that for you. And how has, as you're getting deeper in your faith, how has that changed the way you viewed basketball or even viewed yourself as an athlete?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just understanding that this is a vessel to serve the Lord. Like it's not a vessel to serve you. It's not a vessel to serve others. This is a vessel to serve the Lord through every win, through every point, every bucket, every stat. Like you're doing this to serve the Lord. Like it's for His glory, not you. And if I realize this in myself, if I ever get to a point that I realize it's not for His glory, that I'm not doing it for His glory, that I'm idolizing it, that I'm placing it above Him, then I don't need to be doing it. And I constantly check that. Like I'm at a point now where I constantly check in, like with my basketball career. I'm like, okay, is it still serving the purpose? Is it still serving the purpose? And every time I always get confirmed in that, obviously with God, like God didn't have to grant me the opportunity to play basketball again after Army. Like if I wasn't able to get a Division I offer after Army, I wasn't gonna go JUCO. I was just gonna go be a regular student after school. So but once he, granted me that miracle of being able to play basketball in the way he did it, I knew it was of his will. Every time, through prayer, confirmation, I'm always trying to make sure that it's still the path for me, it's still the best path for me to be able to glorify him and bring people to him. Yeah, it served me greatly. It served me as a vessel to even Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship. Like a lot of people who come there are athletes. A lot of people who came were my own teammates. And I think the notoriety I gained for playing basketball is what really let people know that, oh, yo, there's a new Christian Fellowship on campus. So uh, yeah, and honestly, just even the way I attack the game, the way I react, I don't talk trash as much because it's not really wouldn't be very Jesus-like with me. You know what I'm saying? Try to keep it more game focused now. Whenever I do things, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm very foul prone, but I don't foul quite as hard as I used to. I don't foul intentionally like I used to. Just approach the game a lot more peer of mind and focused on the game now. So I think even just going to my face has made me a better basketball player. It says in the Bible that training up your body is good and well, but to train up your spirit is the most important thing through the word. So that's my mantra that I'm just trying to live by in my athletic career as a man of God.
I gotta ask, what's like a scripture you're always going to, like never fails?
Scripture I'm always going through that never fails. It's funny because I feel like I want to say a million different things now that I'm actually
Like
reading.
no, any script, honestly, anything.
Yeah, now that I'm reading the whole thing, I want to, like, there's so many new verses that I've stumbled upon that just stuck with me. But I think the one verse that stuck with me the most, I've only read up to, I'm on Lamentations right now. So I've only read up to that point. But the scripture that stuck to me the most through my new Bible reading was in Psalms. I don't know the exact, I think it was 27:5, if I'm not mistaken. But the verse, no, it wasn't in Psalms, I'm tripping. It was in Proverbs. Proverbs 27:5. In KJV, the verse read, it said that public rebuke is better than secret love. And that hit me, and I literally had to talk to my sister about, like, public rebuke is better than secret love. And I was just thinking about it. Wow. Like, I don't know, that verse just really, really struck me in Proverbs. And I think I learned every day, it's been on my mind every day. I've been thinking about it. And I think I've just been learning to love the message and the fact that, it's something that most people wouldn't think about. Most people wouldn't be privy to. And just a message of spreading love. Like, just a message of, like, if you love something, if you have joy for something, if you feel a certain way about something, like, let it be known. Like, better for you to publicly rebuke something than to secretly love something. Like, let it be known. Like, I love basketball. Practice as hard as you can. Go as hard as you can doing that. I love God. I love reading the Bible. Like, share it. Don't let it just be for yourself. Like, just something as simple as opening the door for somebody. Something as simple as complimenting somebody whenever you see something. Like I like your chain right now. Like, I don't have to keep that a secret. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. like just, I don't know, just little things like that. And I think it was so powerful too that it was said in Proverbs. It's in the Old Testament, and that's pre-Jesus. Once the New Testament comes in Matthew, where Jesus is born, there on out, we see a lot of messages spread by Jesus about love, being kind, all those things. The Sermon on the Mount, where he's talking about, like, character traits that you should have as a Christian. But I think it's so awesome to see that even in the Old Testament, where they're talking about spreading that love and almost kind of calling what's to come, like prophesying what's to come, what's the Savior, and the message he's going to spread. And so that's the verse that's been heavy on my heart all summer. It's better to rebuke someone publicly than to love in secret. Yeah.
What was it like for you when you like read Leviticus and had to hear all the details about the tabernacle? I know that was a hard one. As I'm going through the Bible, that was hard.
Yeah, I'm not so. I love the Bible, and
Yeah,
the thing, yeah, the thing that's so hard about it is that every verse is important. Every verse has some type of meaning, no matter how big or small. So, like, I never want to just be like going through it or like lose attention. And I'm not gonna lie, like, there's certain parts, like, I'm human. Like, there's certain parts, like beginning of Genesis, like, where they're just talking about this person begot that person and names, they had a family lineage, and like, I don't even know how to say their names. I'm just like, yo, like, we gonna get into the stories, or I'm reading Leviticus. And even in the video review I made of Leviticus, I talked about whenever he was talking about the tabernacle, how he was so specific.
Yes.
Every time he talked about something, he never said, like, oh, do this the same way you did that. He went over every detail again, and like every little scene. And obviously Leviticus, it's mostly law, and you're reading about law. It talks about sacrifices and all this stuff that once Jesus comes, he fulfills the law, fulfills things in the land. So a lot of stuff you don't even have to do anymore. I'm already like, man, I'm reading stuff that like doesn't even apply to me anymore. And then I'm reading about the tabernacle. It's like, man, you're really restating this over and over and over. And I'm not gonna lie, Leviticus was a hard read, especially coming off of Exodus, which is like one of the best stories ever. Like, Leviticus was a hard read. But I think whenever I was reviewing it and just breaking down what I read, I realized like it just shows the intentionality of God. It shows how detailed he is. It shows how nothing gets by him. And I was talking to my sister about it, and I said, that's a great thing, because don't you want intentional God? Don't you want a detailed God? You don't want a God that misses a single detail, any single thing. and the imagery and the specificness of it. I think it just shows God and his nature. So that's what I was able to take out of it. I definitely, I'm not gonna lie, I had to trust myself through Leviticus, but yeah, I'm happy I did it.
I had to ask. I was reading Leviticus. I said, "Oh my gosh, that's it's a different thing right there." But got through once again, seeing God in every single thing. That's been like every time I read the Bible, like what is God revealing about Himself in this, even in the genealogies, even stuff like this, like seeing where He's really revealing Himself. That kind of gets you through those type of chapters where you're going from these great stories with Moses, and now you're seeing like 5 chapters about how to build a tabernacle. So just thinking about. I know there's some hit differently, or how you just sort it differently than others. But one thing I do want to ask is, what's like your advice you have to like a young student athlete who's like getting into their faith, kind of want to go not just student athlete, but being a Christian student athlete?
You said advice?
Yeah.
Advice. I'd say people are going to pull you away from your faith. And there's going to be a lot, if you're an athlete, especially at a high level, there's going to be a lot of times, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to try to pull you away from your faith, or are going to try and tell you right from wrong when you know that their right is wrong. And there's going to be a lot of temptation. Going to be a lot of, like, there's going to be a lot of spirits and a lot of things that will come at you. And it's just, my advice would just be to stand fast, stand strong on the foundation that's solid as a rock rather than the foundation made of sand. All those people who are trying to lead you astray, they're trying to lead you to a foundation made of sand. So stay with God as your rod and staff, because that's the best way you can go. And that's when end all be all, you're going to be happy you made the decisions you made. And you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. Sometimes it's just going to seem like less fun, but you'll be happier you took the path less traveled. Mm-hmm. And I think that rather than adhering to what the world is trying to tell you to do and the spirits and temptations that come along, I think you should listen to your spirit, listen to those gentle whispers whenever God is trying to talk to you, and, you know, listen to your gut whenever you know right from wrong, and change the community around you rather than letting the community change you. I believe that all of us as Christians, we have a responsibility to be a catalyst for change. And a lot of times people want to shy away from, as Christians, we want to shy away from more secular communities and stuff like that. But Jesus said it himself that it's not the healthy that need a doctor, but the sick. So I think there's a huge role for us in the more secular communities to go and to spread the word, to inspire people, and to let them know the good news. I wanted to go to a Christian institution in Texas. And it's like, man, like, you're comfortable in Texas. Texas is founded on the church. Like, there's no separation between church and state. So everybody be like, it's just a much more religious region. You're going to a Christian school, so you have religious formations. Like, everybody who goes there is Christian. And I think in coming here, the reason why I was led here instead of Abilene Christian is because I think I was meant to be the start of something, not a part of something. Like, if I went to ACU, there would have been a million religious communities. I would have joined one. I would have been a part of something. But here I was able to be the start of something, be able to start Quinnipiac Christian Fellowship and lead something that's never been done before, and to be able to help the sick. So, yeah, to all the upcoming Christian athletes, I say, don't be sick, be a doctor. like literally, like, don't be sick, be a doctor. Don't give in to the ways of the world, but instead try and change the world around you. And in doing that, your athletic career will surely flourish, since you're serving God, and your career is for God. And then most importantly, your character, yourself as a person, yourself as a brother, future father, husband, all that stuff, like, it'll flourish. So that's the best lesson.
Thank you for tuning into Faith in the Game with me, Judy Ingram. Hope you tune in to the next one.